Has he ever kicked anybody like that?
He kicked me.
Oh, like
He actually kicked me.
because he did that English and he was so close, and I was like, I just heard that.
He did in Spags. He like jumped on me.
Crap.
No, one time, I think it was like sophomore, freshman year. I don't even know who this kid was, but he just stares at me as I'm eating. And then I look over at him and he's like, "Are you gonna eat your beans?" And I was like, "No."
This is being recorded.
Well, it's not like
What the
anything.
heck
I met
is
him
going
sophomore, freshman year,
on?
and then he was like, "Can I have them?"
I'm pretty sure that everybody
Before I
through this.
I was like,
but
"What
it was
buddy?" I was like, I mean, if I'm not trying to eat them, don't let them go to waste. Then go for it.
I haven't seen Elias all year.
Like,
Oh
oh
my
my god.
god. Oh, he's in the other curtain.
Who?
Elias
So
is
like
in the
baked
goal.
beans.
He's in the
Yeah.
white.
Wait, Elias? Yeah,
where's
he's in the
Elias?
He's in the white community.
In this. What is the white community in this schedule?
Why? We don't have purple on this group, right?
No.
So why did we have?
Success Academy.
What's that?
He's in the library. He's in grade.
Oh, Success Academy.
Hi,
Hi.
my name's Mr. Ebright. I'll be your government teacher today.
Hello, Mr. Ebro.
Okay, so like I said earlier, guys, there's 49 slides on this section. I just put the module up this morning, and I assigned the key terms for Chapter 5 this morning.
How many are there?
I had somebody turn them in over the weekend.
What?
Yeah, I want to terminate after school today.
Yeah, well, I got the notification this morning.
Yeah,
I
how
got
the
the
heck did they do that?
Well, I told you guys about it last week.
Yeah, if you were paying attention.
But how? What
Well,
did you do?
It's not due until next Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday.
I was
Not this Tuesday. Not tomorrow night, but the following, okay? Because this is gonna take us a while, and we have just 2 days this week, okay? So I'll get through a few slides, Monday and Tuesday, and then, we will, pick back up when we get back, okay? So we talked about the legislative branch, guys. The Constitution, right? Article 1 of the Constitution is the legislative branch, okay? And this is the one that the founders really wanted to be closest to the people. And some would say, if you were to give one of the three branches more power than the others, it would be this one, okay? Because this is the people that we get to elect that make decisions for us, right? I'm thinking about turning off the lights.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
We turn on the fun.
Yeah, we'll turn on the fun lights and get some ambiance in here. It just seems too
No,
bright.
no, no.
It just seems.
I gotta put my pants back in.
We don't. Oh.
I have to
Are you
put
a
my
manatee or are you a turtle? A Govt?
I'm a parrot.
Oh.
What?
Mine, they only give me one side of mine.
The next one is a chimpanzee.
Oh,
you know what?
you're
Wait,
Alex,
what?
you
That's
double
a
up at
thing?
night and you don't wear a blanket.
Whoa. Really? Does that work?
Yeah, because they never said anything to me. I just don't
They didn't
Oh.
pick my retainer case color, and I'm still upset about it.
That is
Mine was like a blue sparkle.
Mine was yellow.
Oh,
Mine was
that's
like
on me
pink
again.
and purple.
Oh,
I was like,
it's still on me.
sexist.
Oh my goodness.
Yours was tie-dye at least.
Okay,
They got yellow.
this thing. All right. Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
So the main thing we've talked about to this point about the legislative branch, you guys know quite a bit about it, whether you realize it or not, okay? How many members are there in the United States House of Representatives?
353.
435.
435.
I got that right.
I can't-
I switched to the 500.
I was so confident.
How many in the Senate?
500.
100.
100, okay?
Yeah.
So, and you know they make laws, right? I mean, that's the first thing we have up here, right? That's the role of the legislative branch. Well, now that we're focusing on the branch itself, guys, there's more to it than that, okay? So they also oversee executive agencies, okay? So, you guys heard of the NSA? The National Security Administration?
Oh,
The NSA?
the FBI.
You've heard of the FBI, right? Okay. So if the FBI or the NSA is watching us, who is watching them? Who's watching the CIA?
Nobody.
Congress. Okay? So there are committees in Congress that are set up to oversee government agencies. You follow me? So the executive branch gets to carry out the law. All right? These people have to oversee that they're doing that correctly. Okay? So we'll do a day or so on overseeing agencies. That's important to this process. Okay? And then provide services. Have you heard of any of our students ever applying for like the Naval Academy or West Point or the Air Force Academy? In order to do that, when you apply for that process, okay, you need to get a letter of recommendation from your member of Congress. Okay, one of your members of Congress. And so they also provide services to people. Okay. So, next. Okay. What we're going to focus on now is the first one. We're going to go through all three of these. So the first one on making laws. Okay. So how does a member of Congress make their decision about how they're going to vote on a piece of legislation? So we're going to be looking at the different influences that we see on these members of Congress. And the first, and maybe the most important of these, is a members of Congress' personal beliefs. Okay? Studies show that that is the biggest influence on members of Congress, is their personal beliefs. How they're going to vote. Okay? Okay, so let's learn our guy. All right. We have 4 members of the House from Kansas, yes? We live in the 4th district. Our representative is Ron Estes. Okay. Ron Estes. Okay, so you can see that. All right, now, so there's a bill on the floor, and they got to vote on it. Okay, let's say it's about the stimulus package for COVID. Okay, there's another one that needs to be sent out, especially, and I just heard this morning on the way to work, the state of Nevada is going to a 3-week pause because of COVID. Okay, so like maximum capacity, like for restaurants, 25%. Okay, so what these restaurants are going to end up having to do again is lay off workers. They're not going to get near as much business, okay? And that's through no fault of their own. That's because the governor is saying we need to shut down because of COVID. Okay, so what is in that bill that's going to send money to the states to help them with COVID is important. Okay, and they're going to argue about this. All right, because some members of Congress are going to put more stuff in there that might be necessary. Okay, so like if you look at our state, Kansas, guys, our governor was the first to shut down the schools. I don't know if you remember this last year. Kansas was the first to close schools. Remember how it just like happened that quick? You know what I mean? Because and you guys do spring sports. Okay, so I'm coaching baseball, right? And we're like in our 2nd week of practice. It's Thursday, and AD calls us all down and says, "Hey, we need to meet coaches, spring coaches." So we go down and meet right after school. I'm getting ready to go to practice, and he says, "This is it. I mean, you can practice today and tomorrow, and then we're shutting down." And that was it. We were no longer in school. And then they shut down the businesses. All the restaurants shut down. Okay, the only thing that was open was the grocery, the liquor store, and Home Depot, right? I mean, so all those other people had to shut down, right? And that really hurt the economy. So we did $3.3 billion the government sent out. Okay, and Ron Estes voted for that. Okay, this next package, there's, the Democrats are trying to put certain stuff in there for the big states like California and New York, who shut down longer than we did. We started reopening, right? So those businesses reopened, those employees got their jobs back. Okay, they're saying that about 2 million people that work in the food service industry have never gotten their job back. And 1/6 of all restaurants in this country have shut down for good. If we do another lockdown, you're going to see that happen again. So this bailout situation is important, okay? So studies show that their personal beliefs, even when it goes against the wishes of the voters back home, weighs more than the wishes of the voters back home, okay? So another example here, okay? So let's say you pulled the people in this class in the 4th District of Kansas, and they said, we want a law that makes it illegal to burn the flag, okay? To burn the flag in protest. We want that to be punishable by, a fine or jail time, okay? But as somebody that studied the Constitution, you guys know, right, that burning the flag is a form of speech. It's freedom of expression. And we have that in this country. We have free speech. So which is more important, your feelings about somebody burning the flag that might make you upset, or what's more important, the First Amendment, free speech? So to me, the First Amendment's more important. Okay? So even though the wishes of the people might be make a law against that, and you might get a majority of Americans to say that, the First Amendment is more important. So they stay with their personal beliefs on that, okay? Concern for the public interest outweighs the voters' interest. What's the public interest? First, okay? So this is one of the things that goes into the decision-making process that Ron Estes has to make for us, okay? And our 2 senators, right? And you just don't have our member of Congress. We have 2 senators, okay? And let's learn their names. We should know this. We're studying Congress, okay? So you've got Jerry Moran, and newly elected, right, Roger Marshall. Okay. These people, so they can see this over here. Okay. So these are our 2 senators. And then this is our representative, Ron Estes. Okay. These people, how long are their terms? Do you know? 6. How long are these? 2. Okay, so all 435 are up for re-election every 2 years, every even numbered year. Okay, now Moran, I think, is up for re-election in 2 years. Okay, in 2022. Okay, so ours are staggered. Now, as we know in Georgia, guys, December 7th, and this is something we've got to keep paying attention to, right? Who's going to control the United States Senate? It's two Senate races in Georgia. Okay, right now it's 50 to 48. 50 to 48. Okay. You guys good on this slide? Still writing? All right. What else goes? Oh, that would have been easier to see. This is easy to see. Okay. What else goes into this decision-making process? So you got personal beliefs. Okay, here's a new vocab word for you. All right. This is probably one of your key terms, and that's called constituent. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all constituents of Ron Estes. We all live in the 4th District of Kansas. We're all constituents. We are all constituents of the governor, Laura Kelly. Okay? So a resident of a congressperson's district, okay, is a constituent. Now, they're the ones that elect the representative, right? The constituents. So they have to, Ron Estes has to pay attention to how we feel about things. Now, this opens up some interesting questions. Now, these are some of our old representatives here in this picture. This is a statue of Dwight Eisenhower in the U.S. Capitol that they unveiled. This is Sam Brownback. He used to be the senator and governor of Kansas. This is Pat Roberts, who just left office, that Roger Marshall took his job. And this is Todd Tiahrt, that used to represent the 4th District a few years ago. Okay. And so they were all part of the unveiling of this statue of Eisenhower. Okay. But anyhow, these members of Congress are United States representatives. They represent us in the United States government. You follow me? So they represent Kansas, but they also represent the country. So they're a little bit torn here. So before they vote, okay, they're making a decision not just for the people of Kansas, but for the whole country. But they only answer to us. So, which would you rather them look out for? You want Ron Estes to look out for the 4th District of Kansas, or do you want him to look out for the whole country? That's not a rhetorical question. Stop writing.
Us.
You want to look out for the 4th District of Kansas or the whole United States of America? You want them to look out for us? I agree with that. Okay. Then you have your senators too. Okay. Do they look out for the state of Kansas first and then the whole country second? Or is there times when they have to look out for the whole country as well? It's a little of both, right? Okay. So let's say we've got a situation. Let's talk about Cuba. Okay. Guys, since the Cold War, the United States had a trade embargo with Cuba. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can't buy legally Cuban cigars in the United States. Okay. I've smoked cigars before. I'm not a big cigar smoker. But the best cigars in the world are made in. Okay. You can get good cigars out of Costa Rica and places like that, but the best in the world are from Havana. Okay. And you can't buy them in this country because they're communists and they're in our hemisphere. And we're like, we don't like Castro. We don't like your government. We're not going to trade with you. Okay. We're going to try and hurt them. Okay. By not trading with them. Okay. Now, if Cuba wanted to buy a bunch of wheat from the United States to feed their people, that would be good for the state of Kansas, wouldn't it? Okay. And Senator Pat Roberts, who just retired, or is going to retire next month or so, he's tried to open up Cuba for trade to buy our wheat. Okay. Now, Cuba is going to want to sell us cigars if we're going to buy their wheat, if they're going to buy our wheat. You follow me? So the interest of the country is that we're trying to stop the spread of communism in the Western Hemisphere. The interest of the state of Kansas is to sell wheat for our farmers. You got to weigh the balance. Okay. So these are things that you have to consider, that they have to consider when making a decision. Okay. So they have to figure out how's this going to affect our constituents. I mean, think about, guys, one of the big issues in recent presidential candidates has been things like manufacturing jobs. You know, guys, Detroit, Michigan used to be one of the wealthiest and prosperous cities in America. About 15 years ago, it went bankrupt. Okay. What happened was our lawmakers made it easier for General Motors and these big auto companies to ship jobs overseas or to Mexico. Okay. And those jobs at home that were building cars went away. And these towns they dried up. Okay. Were they looking out for these big corporations? Were they looking out for their constituents and the people that worked at these jobs and the people that supported those companies? It's like in Wichita, guys, the air, building all the airplanes in this city, Cessna, Beechcraft, and I know Boeing's gone. We still have Spirit, but a lot of these companies in this town support that industry. Okay, I know a family here at Bishop Carroll, they do like metal testing to test the strength of certain metals for these airline companies, okay, to see how strong this metal is. And that's their whole gig. And they have, a bunch of employees, and you shut down the industry or send it overseas, you lose all those jobs. Okay, well, who are they looking out for here? Okay, so when we look at this, you're going to have to kind of write this down because I'm going to write it on the board. Okay? And that is, what do you want? Do you want a trustee or a delegate? Okay? A delegate is somebody that represents, okay, represents the interests of the people, okay, and does what the people want, okay? And then you have a trustee that people elect and trust to make the best decision. Sorry about my handwriting. Okay, can you see the difference here? So this really is what a delegate does. They do what 51% of what the constituents want. If 51% of the 4th district say we want this, 51%, then the constituent does that. Or do we elect somebody that is smart, knowledgeable, thinks like we do, generally has the same worldview as we do, and we trust them to make the best decision for us? Which would you rather?
Trustee.
You'd like to have a trustee? Or you want somebody that's going to go with the majority of the people in their district?
But like the majority of people like think alike.
And we get to elect them, right? So we know what Ron Estes thinks like. That's why he's elected. Okay? I'm with you. I like this. I like the trustee. Okay? This takes no leadership. All you have to do is take a poll. Okay? What do the majority of people want to do? We'll just take a poll, and then we'll do that. Well, then why do we even need to pay this guy $174,000 a year if that's all he's going to do? Take a poll. You know what I mean? Take a survey. Doesn't make sense. Okay? So with that, this person hopefully is learning more and more about the issues and knows the ins and the outs of it, where we don't have time to study that. We don't have time to look over all that. We've got jobs, we've got school, we got other things going on, okay? So that's kind of an interesting debate. And guys, this is more democratic. But guys, like we've said in the past, guys, democracy is not what we have in this country. Okay, we have representative government, not a democracy. Okay, so we'll keep it with that. All right. All right. Here's another impact on a member of Congress's decision. These are interest groups. I don't know if you guys can harken back your knowledge. Federalist number 10 by James Madison and factions. Remember the discussion on factions? So these interest groups, like the NRA, the National Rifle Association, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, AARP, the old American Association of Retired People. Okay. These people are looking out for their groups. Now, what do? They spend money to help you get elected. These interest groups. Yes? And while they spend money on you to get you elected, you think they want something in return? This is one of the reasons I think I'd have a hard time running for Congress. Because the thought has crossed my mind. Like, I could go to Washington and fix a lot of the crap that's wrong. You know what I mean? I feel like I could do that. But, just bring some common sense to the swamp, because there's not a lot of common sense in the swamp. And part of it's because of all these interest groups. All right. Now, if you remember when we talked about Madison and factions, the symptoms, which are all this money that is poured into these elections, is going to impact these members of Congress. Okay. And they're going to feel pressure to vote a certain way because these groups gave them money. Yes? Okay. But to fix those symptoms, you would not allow people to give money to candidates to run for election, which is, again, First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I chose to give money to a certain candidate in this election because I wanted them to win. And they think like I do. You take away that freedom, then you don't have freedom. The other way is to make everybody think the same way, which is worse than the symptom. Okay, you're taking away liberty. So these groups provide information. We talked about, how they share information on elections, on voters, or on educating voters. They suggest legislation and promote legislation that's favorable to them. These interest groups use what are called lobbyists. I don't know. Lobbyist. Okay, lobbyist, I think that's how you spell it. Okay. These are people that actually meet with the members of Congress. So they go to Washington, they meet with them. This happens in Topeka too. I met a former student of mine. I was up in Topeka a couple of years ago at the State House, and I'm like, I know this person from somewhere. It's a former student, and he was a lobbyist for convenience stores in the state of Kansas. Okay, and there was a bill going through the state legislature to increase the tobacco tax. Okay, if you ever go into a Quick Trip, right? And I know you guys have all been to Quick Trip, right? The thing that helps keep Quick Trip in business more than anything else is tobacco. People go in there and buy cigarettes. and snuff and, chew, right? I mean, you ever see that when you're in line at Govt Ch5? Yeah, I mean, people are always doing that, okay? So if they put a tax on tobacco, is that going to hurt the convenience stores? Yeah, I mean, okay, so they were there to try and promote legislation that's favorable to them, saying, no, don't pass this tobacco tax. Besides that, guys, the tobacco tax, and you might say, well, this is a good idea, because then it'll be more expensive and people won't use tobacco, right? That's the whole idea behind it, right? Plus, you can raise money and use that money for schools and stuff. It's a win-win, right? But guys, tobacco tax is a tax on the poor. Because disproportionately, poor people use tobacco as opposed to those that are wealthy. The more educated you are, the less likely you are to use tobacco. The less educated you are, the more likely you are to use tobacco. Okay, so it's a tax on the poor. Okay, so you got to think about these laws, man. You just can't say, oh, this is a good idea. Okay, and then these people are going to come in and put pressure on you. Because when I was in college, they've really changed the rules on these lobbyists. But when I was in college, junior college in Florida, I had a girlfriend named Meredith, okay? Meredith's dad was a state legislator. He in Tallahassee, okay? That's the state capital of Florida, okay? And we went, they're big Florida State fans, so she took us we went to a football game at Florida State. And then afterwards, this lobbyist took us out to eat at this, probably the nicest restaurant I've ever been in my life. It's a 5-star restaurant, and we're dressed in like football clothes, but I guess it didn't matter. Anyhow, this lobbyist paid for the whole dinner. Okay, so this lobbyist was taking representative, the state legislator, out to dinner with his family and the tag-along Charlie. And all paid for it. They can't do that anymore. Okay, because they were seeing that these groups were giving so much money, like giving them use of their private jets, giving them tickets to Super Bowls and stuff like that. All these gifts to the members of Congress and state legislature. And this is crazy, man. Okay, these people are buying these members of Congress. All right, so they've really cut down on that, but where they really do help is help them get elected. Okay, so you have to pay attention to these members of Congress that are voting, okay, maybe just based on these lobbyists. Okay, now these lobbyists and interest groups have what are called political action committees, or PACs. And this is huge today, okay? I think I got it laying around here somewhere. Gosh. I just had it because I used it in my honors class the other day. Oh, there it is. Okay. So PAC is a political action committee. All right. Now, this is Coke PAC. So my wife works at Coke Industries. Any of you guys have people that work at Coke in your family? Okay, so what Coke does is says to its employees that if you want to join Coke Pack, we'll take a little bit of money out of your check each month, and then we're going to use that money, okay, to help elect members of Congress that will be favorable to business, okay, because Coke has business interests in, I think, close to 40 states. Okay, it's a big company. It's the second largest privately owned company in the country, all right, Coke Industries. So there's one owner now. Charles Koch is the owner, okay? Now, this Coke Pack, which my wife is a member, that's how I got this, I'm going to pass this around, okay? It shows you how much they gave to each candidate for this election in 2010, okay? So what you'll notice is next to most of these names, you'll see an R. What's the R? Republican, okay? There are some D's next to these, okay? But most of them will have R, all right? And this is to make sure that we're trying to elect candidates that are pro-business. That's what Coke's trying to do, okay? Now, if you look at people like Bill Gates, I remember Bill Gates about 20 years ago said, yeah, I give money an equal amount to Democrats and Republicans, okay? So that he's covered on both sides, whoever wins, which is smart, okay? So these guys provide a lot of money, these PACs, super PACs. Okay, we're talking about millions, tens of millions of dollars that they raise, okay? How does this influence Congress? All right, the other thing Coke PAC does, I'll show you this, is it puts together a directory of members of Congress for every state. Okay, so you can see every member of Congress in here. This is the 113th Congress. So if my wife is working on a big project in Oklahoma, okay, and she's got a $400 million expansion of a plant in Enid, Oklahoma, and they're having some trouble with the local officials, she can open that book up, and she's got the email address, she's got the phone number of the representatives in Oklahoma, okay, that she can contact, okay? This is turned into massive amounts of money, okay? So how does this influence Congress? And this is one of the big misnomers about this money. I want you to read this line with me here, okay? Follow along here. Evidence shows that far more votes are cast for bills that favor those that give money. Huh? Oh, you guys gonna read it with me? Okay, you ready?
No, they would.
You ready?
No, just Alex. Just Alex.
Let's go. Evidence shows that far more votes are cast for bills that favor those that give money. Okay. If I'm running for Congress, okay, Charlie Rich running for Congress. What's the NRA? What's the NRA? The National Rifle Association. Yes? Okay. Let's say I want to do away with guns. I want to get rid of the Second Amendment, and I'm running for Congress. Is the NRA going to give me any money? No. But if I support the Second Amendment, and I believe in gun rights, is the NRA possibly going to give me money? Okay, now wait a second. Did they just buy my vote? Or did they use money for somebody that they thought thinks like they do? This is misleading, guys. Here, right here. Come on. All this money doesn't necessarily mean that people are buying votes. They're electing people that think like they do. Does that make sense? Now, if you think the NRA has too much influence and you don't like guns, guess what you can do? You can start your own super PAC and raise money to help elect candidates that oppose guns. You're free to do that. If I am pro-life and want to see limits to abortion, are pro-choice organizations going to give me money? No. Is Kansans for Life going to give me money? Possibly. Are they buying my vote? No, they're just helping me get elected. Okay? So, most interest groups contribute money to those candidates that think like they do. It's not buying a vote. It's misleading. Okay? Now, are there times where these big groups spend money on you and you feel obligated to support legislation that helps them, that is hurting your own people? Yes. And those are the members of Congress we need to run out of town. Those that cower to the special interests rather than what is best for the people. Okay. Now this little political cartoon down here, guys, shows this is the U.S. Capitol here, and then on these license plates, you see like big labor, dairy, medical. These are all lobbyists parked at the U.S. Capitol so that they can influence members of Congress. Okay. This is a pretty good political cartoon. My greatest asset is I'm so rich, I can't be bought by any special interest group. Because, guys, when you run for Congress, you need to raise money. And we saw it this year, guys, in North Carolina, the Senate race. $100 million was spent by both candidates. You know, total over $100 million for one Senate seat in North Carolina. It's the most expensive ever. So when you get there and you've had, you know, say $40 million spent on your behalf, do you have to kind of look at these organizations and say, well, what do they want out of it? What do they want from me? Or do you say, look, this is how I think about things. If you support what I support, go ahead and give me some money. That doesn't mean I'm going to pass everything you like, but I'm going to do what's best for the American people or for my constituents. Okay? So this is, you know, these are all things that go into a decision-making process of a member of Congress. Okay? Personal beliefs, constituents' interests, interest groups, these are all play a role. Okay? And these are just, I just want to show you this graph. Okay? This is pretty good. And then we'll wind it down. Okay? So, PAC contributions from candidate 2015-2016. Okay? New York Life Insurance gave $831,000. This is PAC, like Coke PAC. Okay? 43% went to Democrats, 56% went to Republicans. Boeing, 4356. International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. The unions guys almost always give to the Democrats. Okay? Except for the Fraternal Order of Police. They give to Republicans. Okay. Credit Union, American Bankers Association went with the Republicans. National Beer Wholesalers, Northwood, AT&T, Lockheed Martin, Honeywell. Okay. And I bet if you looked at this for 2020, Wall Street actually spent a lot more on helping Joe Biden than Donald Trump. Okay. But this just kind of shows you. Look at these. This is just like, this is 10 companies, 10 organizations, 10 patents. There are hundreds of them. Okay. And they're going to favor one side over another, depending on how they view things. Okay. Republicans tend to be pro-business. And one of the things Trump was talking about in 2016 was cutting the corporate tax rate, the corporate income tax, which he did. He kept that promise. Okay. They like, a lot of these like that, cutting the corporate tax. If that makes sense. Yes? Okay. So, all right. Well, hope you got something out of that. And we will pick up from there tomorrow.